I didn't mean to have everybody get quiet, but the recording is, you can be loud for another minute and 8 seconds, yes. But the microphones are live now. And then the goal is to make certain that this is not near this, because that's a bad idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
See how that would be challenging.
Yeah, that happened to somebody in Olympia with a glass table. The person was unhappy, but hit it too hard. And there was paper there, went right through the paper, it shattered the table. He was gobbling somebody down, and yeah. Yeah, they showed it on the news and everything. It was one of those things where you heard a crack, and it was after the meeting that somebody went and took a picture.
Oh, that's even worse. It's not like a big dramatic moment.
No, because there was paper down, the cameras, you couldn't see it. It was a band like that. And you heard a thud that was real hard and different.
Because I didn't.
She didn't join with audio.
Yeah.
So that's why I always join with audio, so that you know that I'm muted, and so I know that I'm muted. Yeah. All right, it's 1900. Are you ready to go? We ready? All right. Good evening and welcome to tonight's Monroe City Council meeting. This is the regular business meeting for the Monroe City Council. It's Tuesday, June 28th, 2022. The time right now is 7 p.m. Jody, will you please call the roll?
Is my mic on?
Yeah, I do want to turn your mic on. I think that's a great idea. Did I just turn it off? Okay. All right, there you go.
Thank you. Council members present and establishing a quorum are council members Fulcher, Kinney, Davis, Gamble, Fisher, and Scarborough.
Thank you. And we'd heard at a previous meeting that Councilmember Hanford would not be here this evening. So unless there's objection, we'll consider Councilmember Hanford's absence as excused. Saying no objection to that, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm gonna ask Councilmember Fulcher to please lead us in the pledge this evening. Thank you. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The next item that we have on our agenda this evening is public comments. This is a time set aside for members of the public to speak to the City Council on any issue related to the City of Monroe, except any quasi-judicial matter that is subject to a public hearing. 3 minutes are allowed per speaker. If you're interested in speaking this evening and you are remote, please go ahead and raise your hand. You can do that by pushing the raise hand button in Zoom, or you can hit *9 if you're on the phone. For people who are here in the audience, you can certainly go ahead and sign in, or you can put your hand up now and I can invite you forward. I'm going to start off with the people that are currently in the audience. I'm going to start off with the people who signed in. The first person we have who signed in is Wes Hagan. Wes, please come forward and just please state your area of residence for the record, and then we'll start the 3-minute timer. Thank you.
Bordering on the Monroe Woodlands.
Okay, thank you very much. Go ahead.
On October 6th, 2020, Mr. Swanson spoke to this board about the Woodlands annexation and the boundaries that were being proposed, and made factually inaccurate statements to this board. After those boundaries were published, the citizens that were impacted didn't have any say on it. We were told it was too late. And you now have your annexation in place and you're proceeding with the legal requirements with the Snohomish County in order to take ownership. My ask of this council is this: there are 2 wastewater or sewer retention ponds that belong to Roosevelt Ridge, which in the past has expressed how they did not want to be annexed. Now half of that HOA has been annexed. Those retention ponds are in the Monroe Woodlands property, and now being transitioned to ownership or being oversight of Monroe from Snohomish County. My ask to Monroe is this: take legal and full ownership of my 2 retention ponds. You're now collecting tax money from some of my homes. These retention ponds are in this mixed ownership state. As it stands through my conversations with Monroe and the Snohomish County, things generally will transfer as they currently are documented, but that doesn't mean that Monroe can't change that in the process. So
Okay.
if there's a member here who I can work with and making sure that they know what those are and things like that, I'm happy to do that. But that's my ask, is to do right for what was done wrong.
Right. Thank you very much. Jacob Roberts, our Public Works Director, who's seated right here, will give you his business card or his contact information. He'd be the person that you would work with. We have your email address here, or if he's got his business card, he'll provide that to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Other people who are in the audience who have not signed up to speak? Okay, Melanie, did you want to come forward? And please go ahead and state your name and area of residence for the record, and then we'll start the timer.
Melanie Ryan, Monroe, Washington. I'm Melanie. I'm the founder of Buck's Place. You heard via email from our executive director, and she will be on, she's on Zoom as well. When I founded Buck's Place, my intent was and continues to be to build and then leaves Buck's Place as a sustaining and thriving organization that's incorporated into the fabric of our community. Nonprofits are a community organization in the truest sense of the concept. They aren't owned by anyone. They're governed by a group of volunteers and supported by members of the community. The nonprofit model is a beautiful concept, but there's also flaws in the system, and these became more evident than ever during the pandemic. This model is strained by the expectations to do less with more, to do more with less, and that people should give an extraordinary amount of themselves in the name of service. And this is a lot to ask in the best of times. As we all know, we are in extraordinary times. Tracy mentioned in her email, our demand for services has increased 250% over pre-pandemic applications. And at its lowest point during the past 2.5 years, we were down 80% in donations. Well, donors and volunteers began returning at the beginning of the year. We continue to face the challenges of the pandemic, both financially and emotionally, on our clients, volunteers, and donors. We have always been grateful for the support this community has given us over the years. However, at this time, we need some more, and we need it from new partners and people who have the means and opportunities to do so, such as with the American Rescue Plan funding. When I looked at the list of funded grants being proposed tonight, I'm reminded just how fortunate we are to have the support services and small businesses that we do here in Monroe. There's no organization on this list that's not doing important work, not deserving funds, and there's no business that is not valuable to our community. At the same time, there are some considerations we'd like to bring to the attention of the council. To be clear, neither I nor the Buck's Place board are asking the council to deny any of the funding that's up for approval today, nor are we criticizing city staff or volunteers. We're just asking the council in their capacity as reviewers and approvers for the following: to evaluate and discuss any immediate options that would provide funding for Buck's Place and other organizations with emergent needs that have not had the opportunity to be funded and whose needs are directly due to COVID. Some needs on these lists are more emergent than others. For those like Buck's Place with emergent needs, each round of funding denied or each application misplaced, such as ours were in the first round and never even got considered.
Melanie,
Compounds.
I'm sorry, I need to ask you to wrap up your 3 minutes.
Oh, I'm almost done.
Okay.
Compounds the impact of COVID. 2 more points. To establish a process to determine in a timely manner what awards are being unused partially or in full and reallocate them to other organizations with unfilled funding needs. And to review, this is my last point, to review future applications with an equity lens by considering different levels of access business and organizations have for funding. Larger orgs and those with regional or national presence have broader funding opportunities than small local nonprofits and business. To date, 40% of the funding has gone to 3 organizations. To prioritize and consider
Melanie, I do need to ask you to wrap up.
Okay, you can see the rest in the email. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. Is there somebody else who would like to speak this evening? Please come forward, state your name and area of residence for the record, please. And thank you.
I'm Hostihan and I live in Monroe. And I am here on behalf of Beck's Place. 11 years ago, I was homeless and on the streets with my dog. And I was lucky enough to meet a family that took me off the streets and brought my dog and me in their home and helped me get off drugs. And I've been clean and sober ever since. 5 or 6 years ago, I learned of a place called Beck's, and I met with Melanie, and after talking with her, I decided I wanted to volunteer. And after volunteering for a short while, she asked me if I wanted to be on the board of directors, and I accepted. The main reason that I accepted and still today I'm a part of Beck's Place is because they help people that have animals that get looked over. Often we'll find people that are elders that won't go in and get medical attention because they don't want to leave their dogs and they don't want to give their dogs up. So we'll foster that animal for them until they're healthy and back on their feet and reunite them. We also do the same for a drug addict that wants to get clean. We'll take in their dog and we'll take care of their dog until they're ready to come and be a productive citizen of society. While they're in our foster care, we also take care of their vet needs. Beck's Place. Beck's Place has showed me how special a pet is to their owners. It's not just their pet, it's part of their family. My dog was part of my family and I lost her 2 months ago. But I'm just asking for you guys to help us so we can keep going and help people.
Thank you for your comments. And is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak to the council this evening? All right, we're gonna go ahead and move on to the folks that are in the attendees list remote. We're gonna start off with, and I do call people based on the names that are shown in the user ID in Zoom. So we're starting off with Tina Miracles. Tina, if I'm hoping I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You are now in the panel. Please go ahead and take yourself off of mute and turn on your video if you're willing to. Please state your name and also area of residence for the record, and then we'll start the timer.
My name is Tina Pomanian and I live in Monroe off of Chain Lake Road. Hello, I am coming this evening to talk about Miracles and Memories Academy. I also echo the things that Melanie has said. I know the committees have put a lot of time and effort into reviewing applications, and I am in no judgment or critique of what has been analyzed. I just want to give you a moment to know a little bit of what we are and what we do to hopefully help see why our need is so large. So we are a community center in Monroe that provides respite care for individuals with disabilities and support for their families. We do IEP support. We do connecting people with Social Security and DDA, things that they maybe cannot access on their own. This summer, we started summer camp. And our summer camp is specifically for neurodiverse children and children with cognitive disabilities. There are lots of summer camps in the world, but there are none in Snohomish County that can cater specifically to this group of students and their families. We are the only one in Snohomish County. We are the only one that I'm aware of in the state, actually, that provides childcare-based day camp for neurodiverse children. I want to share a story about an 11-year-old boy with autism and ADHD who is a participant in our camp. He is sweet and kind and funny, and he loves space and he loves swimming. When his parents got divorced, he thought it was all his fault. He thought he wasn't good enough. He didn't behave well enough. They fought all the time because of him. And he's coming to our camp. And this summer, he got to come last week and then this week. And it's the first time that his mom has been able to be at work while school is out of session. This mom has lost 5 jobs in the last 7 years due to being called out of work for her son's behavior. He is a great kid, but when he gets overstimulated, he can't control his big emotions, and sometimes that gets violent. That's not something that your typical camp can handle. Another boy that we are taking care of right now, he's 14 and he still needs help in the bathroom. That's not a camp. That's not a kid that can go to a typical camp and get services. And so without help and funding, we will not be able to help these families. And by not helping them and turning families away, we're telling them that their families don't matter, their stability doesn't matter, their jobs don't matter. And I would just ask the council to reconsider some of the funding and help us to be able to provide this care.
And I do need to ask you to wrap
Every
up.
time. Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening. Yeah.
We're going to go ahead and move on to the next person. The next person that we have who has their hand up in the remote session is Sarah Lundstrom. Sarah, we'll go ahead and move you forward. We'll move Tina back to the panel. Back to the attendees list, rather. Good evening, Sarah. You're now in the panel.
Hi,
Please go ahead and state your name and area of residence for the record, and then we'll start the timer. Thank you.
sure. I'm Sarah Lundstrom. I pull families out of desperation and take the next step, and I live in the Frylands in Monroe. Family resource centers serve our community's most vulnerable and marginalized families. We are very fortunate to have one right here in our community called Take the Next Step. Since the pandemic began, we are fast approaching $500,000 that we've been able to provide for Monroe families to keep them in their homes with lights and heat, food and medical care, basic needs for all of us. We've been so busy at the resource center with very intense cases. It seems like most situations coming through the door lately involve domestic violence in some way. In one recent afternoon, we were able to help a local Tuaco Valley farmer who had lost large and expensive equipment in a flood, apply for and receive ARP funds to replace his equipment. That's funding through the county. And in the same afternoon, we were able to help move one of our Spanish-speaking families that we've been serving from the emergency shelter that we've been providing to permanent housing through one of our partners. And this was a woman who survived being brutally attacked by her husband in front of her 3 children. In addition, we were also able to help a local single mom whose teen son has cancer accessed family medical leave so she can get him to his appointments and keep her job. These are the vulnerable families and marginalized people in our community. Next Step is one of 7 family resource centers in Snohomish County. I hope to convince council that the important work we're doing in supporting Monroe's most vulnerable families is worthy of regular line item annual funding. As a side note, the work we do is nothing without partners, the support and collaboration of partners. We want to recognize the important work that partners like Beck's Place and Miracles and Memories Academy do in our community. They fill important gaps, and we have been disappointed to see them overlooked for our funding. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Thank you very much, Sarah. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next person with their hand up in the attendees list. That would be Tracy Brad. So we're going to go ahead and move Tracy Brad into the panelist list. We'll move Sarah back into the attendees list. Good evening, Tracy. Please go ahead and state your name and area of residence for the record, and then we'll start the timer.
My name is Tracy Brad, and I live in North Bothell, Washington, but I'm the executive director of Beck's Place in Monroe.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
So to the council, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this statement regarding the American Rescue Plan funding. As I said, I'm the executive director of Beck's Place, a nonprofit that was founded in Monroe in 2015. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to tell you the stories of the people we serve, and I've changed the stories or the names of their stories to protect their privacy. But I do think that it's important for you to hear about who we help and how we help them. So for the past 7 years, Beck's Place has helped families stay together. We provide emergency foster boarding for the pets of people who are experiencing medical, housing, domestic violence, and substance abuse emergencies. These people live right here in your community. People like Norma, who delayed life-saving medical care until she knew her cats were cared for. Caroline, who was pregnant and working with a social worker to seek substance abuse treatment, but couldn't leave her dog behind. And Jennifer, a domestic abuse survivor who needed to flee with her young children, but couldn't because her husband threatened violence against their animals. These families and many more sought out foster boarding with us so that they could access life-saving services. As Melanie said, applications for our services have increased by 250% compared to our pre-pandemic levels, while our funding at its lowest point reached an 80% decrease. Over the past 2 years, we haven't been able to hold our in-person events, which typically comprised 1/3 of our funding, and personal donations decreased as well. And while donations are recovering, they're not matching the rate with which we're receiving applications. Each of these applications is a person and a family in crisis. I've been on the phone with these people, and I've heard the panic in their voices as they called from their car so that their abusive partner couldn't overhear them. I've heard the beeping of medical equipment as they called from the hospital when their only concern was for their animals. I've heard them cry when I said, yes, we can help you. Your animals are safe, after everyone else said no. And because their animals were safe, they were safe too. Because of Beck's Place, Norma made it to the hospital. Because of Beck's Place, Caroline found sobriety and had her baby. And because of Beck's Place, Jennifer and her family escaped domestic violence. These lives were changed and likely saved as well because these families received the support that they needed. These are members of your community. These are your friends, your neighbors, and you. These are the people who make Monroe the vibrant small town that it is. And we want to continue to help the Normas, Carolines, and Jennifers of our community. And they need our help immediately, but we need the American Rescue Plan funding to meet this unprecedented demand. While we're thankful that we secured other funding to bridge some of that gap, our ability to serve is severely overshadowed by the volume of need. Our application for the first round of ARP funding was inadvertently lost after it was submitted, and our second round applications didn't make it past the review committee.
Tracy, I do need
Yes.
to ask you to wrap up. You've exceeded
Okay.
your minutes.
We respectfully ask you to please reconsider approving these recommendations as they stand and find a way to fund the Beck's Place applications. The rest of my message is also included in email to council members as well as to the mayor. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next person who has the hand up in the attendees list. That would be Melanie Lockhart. We'll move Tracy Brad back to the attendees list and Melanie to the panelists list. Melanie, you're now on the panelist list. Good evening. Please go ahead and state your name and area of residence for the record, and then we'll start the timer.
I am Melanie Lockhart, and I'm a mother of 3 young kiddos living in the Frylands.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Yep. We moved here 5 years ago, and I have to admit that I was a little apprehensive at the time. Monroe has a bit of a reputation, and it's one that isn't always positive or welcoming. Since coming here, we have contemplated whether or not we want to stay because we've witnessed some of the hate and get out of my town mentality that I had heard about since well before I became a mother. Furthermore, we've heard testimonies of much worse, particularly from people who have skin that isn't white or who belong to the LGBTQ+ community. Now, I had the honor of attending Juneteenth a couple weekends ago. Monroe Equity Council and the Lewis family put on a beautiful event, even in the rain. And I appreciated that Mayor Thomas showed up to speak, and I want to quote him really quick. One of the things that's really important in our community is love. It's important for us that we are loving our neighbors, that we are respecting who they are and honoring them for who they are, not who we think they should be, not trying to mold them to be somebody different, but to love them for who they are. He went on to say, and I quote, "Monroe is to be a safe place and will be a safe place for everyone, where everyone feels at home and everyone feels they belong." This is a beautiful vision, one that I support wholeheartedly. And do you want to know when I've felt the most love here in Monroe, aside from my own family? Volunteering at Pride. Both last year when I was painfully pregnant in 110-degree heat, and this year when I was able to primarily focus on taking photos to capture an amazing community event. The amount of pure joy and acceptance and love all around was immeasurable. This year saw upwards of 1,500 people attend, and my favorite part was watching the youth, many of whom gathered in front of the performance area to dance, smile, laugh, and jump for joy. In that moment, they weren't worried about acceptance. There weren't any bullies like some of the ones who showed up in droves to comment on the city's social media pages. There weren't people shouting that their mere existence is wrong. They were happy. They were safe. That was love. It's events like Pride and Juneteenth, and those who show up in good faith with hearts full of love to celebrate people that make me glad that we moved here to Monroe and make us want to stay. I hope and ask that the city continues to welcome and promote these types of events, utilizing community spaces. That's how I imagine Monroe. And I'll leave you with one final quote from Mayor Thomas to the Juneteenth crowd. "We are one humanity, we are one people, and we should be loving one another." Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. We'll go ahead and move you back to the attendees list, and we'll move forward Andrew Fegler as from the attendees list to the panelists list. Good evening, Andrew. Please go ahead and state your name for the record, and we'll go ahead and start the timer. Also indicate your area of residence.
My name is Andrew Fegler, and I live in the Frylands neighborhood.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Like I said, I'm Andrew. I'm the newest board member at the local nonprofit Beck's Place here in Monroe. I recently joined the board because I recognize the importance and the impact that this organization provides for our community. Beck's Place is the only organization of its kind in Washington state, providing struggling families with access to free foster care for their animals. The demand for the services, as previously mentioned, have drastically increased over the last few years during the pandemic. Evictions, domestic violence, or lack of employment are one of the many factors that can force a family to surrender their pets. We at Beck's Place provide an essential role in preventing animal surrenders and allowing families the chance to be reunited with their pets when the time becomes right again. 1 in 5 families during the pandemic adopted a pet to help with mental health services or mental health issues, loneliness, or lack of social interaction. After the eviction moratoriums and government assistance was halted, many households found themselves without the resources to meet the financial needs of the home. Because of COVID, our fundraising, donations, and volunteers have decreased significantly, and assistance in many different forms is needed for the organization. The Beck's Place community and board please that the council reviews the unused and non-awarded American Rescue Plan funds and then consider Beck's Place as a high priority organization to issue an award to. This way we can continue to strongly support our low-income households in their times of desperate need. As intended by the R in the acronym of ARP, this grant money is intended to rescue this community's businesses and the people of Monroe from the impacts of the pandemic. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next person, Sherry Clenert. I hope I said your name correctly. We're going to move you into the panelist list. We'll move Andrew back into the attendees list. Sherry, you're now in the panelist list. Please go ahead and take yourself off audio on. Turn on your video if you are so inclined, and please state your name and area of residence for the record.
Okay.
Sherry?
I'm here.
Okay.
There we go. I had to figure out how to do this. So my name is Sherry Clinner, and I actually live in Gold Bar, Washington. However, my son, Jeremy, he's a 29-year-old adult with autism, and he's nonverbal. And he has been going to Miracles and Memories Academy since they first opened. So I'm just kind of here, kind of trying to support Miracles and Memories Academy and trying to help convince you guys to help support them as well. From the parent and family perspective, Miracles and Memories has offered a service for our family that I can't even put a price tag on. The support of her and her volunteers and her employees, you know what? They give Jeremy a safe place to go every day that gets him into the community and does things for him that my husband and I cannot do. As an adult with disabilities, once you hit when you're in high school, once you hit 21, everything stops. These children, what I call children, because of course he's mine, there is nothing available for these kiddos. When we first started looking at daycares or adult daycares for Jeremy so that he had things to do outside of the home, the closest one was Carnation. So we had to drive to and from Carnation twice a day to get Jeremy's services, to get him out into the community so that he could try to be a productive member of the community. With Miracles and Memories moving to Monroe, it gave us an opportunity to get our son closer to home, where if something happened, we could be there, and a place that's loving and safe for him. And that works, that can, I mean, I just can't say enough good things about them, because like during COVID, we actually continued to have Jeremy go there because consistency for his schedule is like the end all be all of his life. So we kept him going there just to keep his routine the same, and knowing that Miracles Memories was going to be able to keep him safe. So, you know, I can't say enough good things about Miracles and Memories Academy and Tina Pamanian and her crew. And I just hope that the city of Monroe will find value in their service for others as well. So I will go ahead and close that way. So yeah, yes.
You broke off for a minute there, but we understood what you said. So
Okay.
yeah. Are you finished with your comments? I'm sorry, I missed the end of that.
I am. I'm just hoping that we can get everybody on board to help support Miracles and Memories and their services to the community.
All right. Thank you very much, Sherry.
Thank you.
If you haven't spoken yet and you're interested in speaking, please go ahead and raise your hand if you're in Zoom, or please raise your hand if you're in the audience and you haven't spoken yet. All right. Seeing them, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. And thank you folks for your comments this evening. The next item on the agenda is announcements and presentations. This is item number 5. We're going to start off with a proclamation for Independence Day. Proclamation recognizing and celebrating the 4th of July, 2022 as Independence Day. Whereas the Declaration of Independence was ratified by representatives from the 13 original states in July 1776, and the Declaration documented objections raised against the King of Great Britain, summarily describing the King's governance as, quote, absolute tyranny over these states, end quote. Whereas the Declaration of Independence not only communicated these objections to the King of Great Britain, and further, the Declaration of Independence proclaimed to the world the core principles and values upon which our nation was to be founded and sustained. And whereas the Declaration of Independence proclaimed that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And the Declaration proclaimed that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And whereas over 246 years since the Declaration of Independence, our nation has continued to work toward realizing these core values and principles, including amending our Constitution to better define a person's freedoms in the Bill of Rights, to abolish the enslavement of people in the 13th Amendment, to expand equal protection and personal liberties in the 14th Amendment, and to expand access of the governed to the government in the 15th, 19th, 23rd, 24th, and 26th Amendments. And whereas countries across the globe look to the United States of America as a leader in self-government and the advancement of personal liberties, and have themselves sought to emulate and realize these core values in their countries. And whereas it is paramount that we celebrate our independence and also educate ourselves on the core values and principles within the Declaration of Independence, and affirm our commitment to protecting, sustaining, and continuing to expand the realization of these values for ourselves and for one another. Now, therefore, I, Jeffrey Thomas, Mayor of the City of Monroe, Washington, do hereby recognize 4th of July, 2022 as Independence Day, and encourage our residents, employers, and visitors to learn more about the Declaration of Independence, give thanks for people today and within our history that have worked to protect and expand the core values and principles and the Declaration of Independence to all our residents and expand them abroad, and celebrate our nation's independence on July 4th, 2022 with friends, family, and neighbors. Thank you, everybody. All right. Next item on the agenda then is 5.2, is a presentation of proposed amendment to Snohomish County Solid and Hazardous Waste Management Plan with Mr. Roberts. Jacob, I will activate your microphone.
All right, I'm rolling.
Okay, there.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, council. So Title VI of the Monroe Municipal Code specifies that the Snohomish County Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Plan, I think I missed a few of the words in there, shall serve as the City of Monroe Comprehensive Solid Waste Management Plan based on an interlocal that we worked with the county on back in 1990 and maybe more recently in 2004. In any case, John Greninger, the superintendent of the Snohomish County Solid Waste Division, is here to discuss the updates to the plan and then talk about a little bit about the next steps as we bring forward a resolution of support and then an interlocal in future meetings. So turn it over to you, John. If you push that button right there in the center.
I got
it. Well, see, if you wait for the mirror, there you go.
Well, I wouldn't always wait for the mirror because sometimes it doesn't happen, right? Please go ahead.
Awesome. Well, thank you, everyone. It's nice to see council in person. And I know Deborah, we worked together 2008-ish, maybe.
Good memory.
Right. And Mayor Thomas, we've worked together with.
In another capacity.
Yep. So it's nice to see everybody. So I'm John Greninger. I'm the solid waste superintendent. I have a presentation for you about the update to the solid and hazardous waste comprehensive plan. And have a couple of asks for you. So I'm just going to kind of fly through it real quick. The next slide, please. So what I'm going to do is go through, kind of give you the kind of a general timeline of this update process and kind of what it's about, general overview of the plan itself and how it's kind of broken up. And it's broken up into three main parts of volume 1, volume 2, and some appendices. Then I'm going to talk about the next steps and some general updates for the plan. Next slide. So the timeline of this, we started the update process in 2020, early 2020. What else started around early 2020, right? So I would say going through this plan update has been a slog, right? I started it and we were working with some consultants and we've gone through 3 grant administrators at the Department of Ecology. We've gone through 3 solid waste directors in the solid waste division. I'm still here. We're working through the plan. And so what we did to get this updated, it's a 6-year, the idea of the plan, it's a 6-year update. This is the 2013 plan of when it was finally adopted last time. We started work on it in 2019. COVID hit us. We kind of just been trying to get through. Now we're getting to a point where we're trying to wrap this up. And so what we did was we started early 2020, went through several SWAC meetings, the Solid Waste Advisory Committee. We had meetings once a month there, review from ecology, edits, public comment, incorporated those changes. We have a SWAC endorsement to county council, and we've done the CEPA review. So where we're at right now is one required component of the solid waste plan update is a resolution of adoption from all the cities in the county that have signed on to the interlocal agreement that Jacob referenced earlier. So that includes Monroe, right? And so I believe in your, I think I gave you a sample resolution of adoption. And so ultimately that's going to be my ask of you is that you sign a resolution of adoption and then you get that back to me. And then what I do with that is it's included as one of the appendices in the plan. And then I package all that up. I bring it to county council and they adopt that. And then I go to the Department of Ecology for one final approval. And then hopefully we're done with the update process for the next 6 years. And the way it kind of works, if we have changes and things, we can update through our SWAC committees. And anyway, so that's the quick timeline of the plan update. Next slide, please. So the idea of this, it's the solid waste portion and the hazardous waste portion. We kind of lump it all together. Number one, I wanted to create a usable plan. Kind of a funny, not funny thing was when we were cleaning up our admin offices in Everett, it came across a box of the plan update from 2004. Brand new, not even cracked, open printed copies of the plan. And I'm thinking, no, this is, we need to have a usable framework for solid waste issues in the county. So that's really kind of my number one priority in how this is written. The idea of this is I really want to have more increased coordination and collaboration with our regional partners. This goes for the local, state, and federal levels, our contracted partners, and our solid waste advisory committee. I mean, that's really kind of, that collaboration is very important. For the division, I really want to define our priorities of what because we've gone through so much flux in the last couple of years. And I think it's time we relook at everything, define our priorities, and kind of move on with that. And then always looking at continuous improvement opportunities. So that's kind of the general plan element is so when you're looking through the plan document, just kind of keep those in mind. Next slide. So the plan's broken up into 3 parts. Volume 1 is kind of just a general introduction, a current, it's a current review of the system as it is right now. It has some historical context in there. And there's also a section, some tables that tell you what we've updated from the last plan and like what was completed, what was not completed, just kind of a general review of the last plan. And it also identifies a little bit of a vision of the future, which is broken down into 2 goals. Basically, it's what can we do with sustainability and climate change issues, and how do we continue to provide efficient services for a changing customer base. Next slide. So volume 2 is really the meat of the plan. And I really like how we've developed this part of the plan. You'll see on the left side, all the bullet points, those are all technical memorandums, tech memos that we call them. And they present kind of the whole solid waste cycle, right? Going from the climate change to sustainability, waste prevention, and they kind of go in the order of operations, right? So we eventually get the recycling, the waste collection, the transfer, the disposal. So you can see how it all kind of flows that way, all the way down to the admin and regulation side. Now, in every tech memo is what's in the blue box there, there's a summary, background, a review of existing programs, planning issues, alternatives, and recommendations. So all of those pieces are in each of those tech memos. And so there's lots of good information in there. Next slide. The appendices is really kind of the third part of the plan update. And a lot of these are all required elements by the state, the Department of Ecology. These are all required points. There's the new portion of this is Appendix H, which is the contamination reduction and outreach plan. This is a new part of state law that is, how are we as a community going to deal with contamination issues in recycling and the recycling stream, right? And so that's kind of a new plan that's in there. And then you'll see Appendix I is the resolution of adoptions. And that's where I'll put everybody's resolution of adoptions, package it up, and present that to county council and then ecology. Next slide. So the next steps, I just kind of reviewed that, is I'd hope you recommend and approve a resolution of adoption for the solid waste comprehensive plan update. And I'll take that to county council. Then we do a final SWAC review. I have to specifically go back to SWAC and ask them to review the waste and recycling aspects of the plan. It's just written that way in RCW. It's kind of odd, but and then I take that plan, submit that to ecology, and hopefully they review it and say, hey, great job, and let us know if there's any updates. Next slide. So that's kind of my pitch for the resolution of adoption. Just a couple of general solid waste updates that I have for you is our new solid waste director. His name is Dave Schoenhard. He's been with solid waste division, I think 33 years. He's great to work with for sure. And so his contact information is there. If you ever have any solid waste questions, you can always contact him or myself. SWAC representation. The city of Monroe does not have a SWAC member. I would love it if you as council or Jacob as a city representative, right? If you all would nominate or appoint or voluntold somebody, no, just to be part of that advisory committee. I think that would be great. And then there could be input specifically from City of Monroe on solid waste issues with the community. And then the interlocal agreement. The interlocal agreement for solid waste services in Snohomish County expires at the end of 2023. And so you will all be seeing Dave and myself back here giving you a little pitch for the interlocal agreement and solid waste services. And I'll be talking with you, Jacob, more about that as we go forward. So that's the quick version of the plan. Thanks for listening to me about that. If you have any questions about the plan or questions about solid waste issues, or I'm here to answer those, or if not, we can always do that later as well.
All right, thank you very much.
Yep.
Jacob, do you have anything further to add? You can go ahead and.
Just that this will be coming back to the council. It's an agenda in 2 weeks.
Okay. January 12th. Sorry.
July.
July 12th. It starts with a J, right?
Fair enough. I'm
It's
pretty
okay.
sure it'll be July.
I was
but
called George earlier today.
Before
So
January,
Jeffrey,
would be
George, July, January, it's all good.
Soon.
Soon, yes. So stay right there, please. Councilmember Gamble, go ahead.
I'm trying to recall, have we ever had a SWAC representative?
I don't remember having a SWAC member.
And not as, I don't think so.
And how long has it been in existence?
Jacob knows.
Yes.
And what would have been?
I don't know, long time ago.
I don't recognize that name.
I recognize the name.
Prior to 2000. Thank you, Ben. Prior to
That's why I don't
2009.
recognize the name.
It was a
Okay.
galaxy far, far away too.
Okay. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah, I think it'd be great. And I'm really trying to build up the full capacity of SWAC because it goes with all the cities. It goes with council districts, ag board. It could be a really big and powerful advisory group. And I
What
want to,
cities do you currently have representation from?
we have about 10.
Okay,
I know it's about half because we have like, what, 20 in there.
sure. Any in Sky Valley? Do we have any Sky Valley representation? Sultan, Gold Bar, Snohomish? Okay, thank you.
No, it's more up north and west side.
Any other questions, Councilmember Gamble?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, any other
We
questions from
did
other
just
council
get
members?
Darrington representation.
Any other questions from other council members? All right, so this will be coming back to you July 12th. And I think that's all we had. Thank you
Awesome.
very much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda, and that item would be item number 6, public hearing, required public hearing for ordinance number 014-2022, adding emergency interim zoning amendments to chapter 22.12, Monroe Municipal Code MMC definitions with Kate Turtelot. And I see Kate on the screen. Kate, you can go ahead and turn on your video and audio. And you're up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Thomas. I am before you this evening for the required public hearing for the emergency ordinance that you passed. First off, can you hear me? Yes? Okay, thank you. You passed an ordinance on May 10th adopting emergency interim zoning amendments to chapter 2212 of the Monroe Municipal Code definitions per revised code of Washington, sections 35, 63, 220, and 3670A 390. The council is required to hold a public hearing within 60 days of adopting the emergency ordinance. Again, for reference, the council adopted an identical ordinance in 2021, and this is, it was necessary for the city to adopt. It's a combination of your pre-unified development regulation definitions and the new chapter 22 Monroe Municipal Code definitions. And so this evening, it's to hold a public hearing, answer any additional questions. And if you feel, if it's appropriate to also adopt additional findings to support the ordinance.
All right. Thank you very much, Kate. Does anybody have any questions for Kate about her presentation? If not, we will move to open up the public hearing. All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here that would like to speak to this item this evening? All right, seeing none. Is there a motion to close the public testimony portion of the public hearing? Councilmember Gamble.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Gamble, a second from Councilmember Davis to close the public testimony portion of the public hearing. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Councilmember Gamble.
Move to close the public hearing.
I have a motion to close the public hearing from Councilmember Gamble, a second from Councilmember Scarborough. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much, everybody. Anything further this evening, Kate?
I have two more items, but I'll see you in a bit.
All right, thank you. We're going to go ahead and move on to the consent agenda then. Council members. Councilmember Fulcher, go ahead.
I move to approve the consent agenda as provided in the packet. Okay, second.
I have a motion from Councilmember Fulcher, a second from Councilmember Kenny to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. We're going to go on to the next item on the agenda. That's item number 8, unfinished business. This is 8.1, North 41 annexation or notice of intent to commence annexation. Initial meeting, bringing forward Kate Turtelot. Kate, you're back in the panel. Good
Thank
evening.
you. Sorry about that. I guess I should have just stayed on. I do want to give you, the council, a heads up that the applicants from Taylor Morrison, Lisa Cavell, and Pete Berries may not be present this evening. I received an email from them late this afternoon that they are preparing for a corporate meeting. So I wanted to make you aware of that if they're not available to answer your questions. So this is an overview of the request for annexation. It was previously called the De Donato application, now called North 41. If you could move the slides, please. Thank you. So this area is adjacent to the Monroe Woodlands that was recently annexed earlier this year. The properties consist of 41.69 acres. The, excuse me, back in 2019, the city did do a pre-zoning for this annexation area of R7 or 7 units per acre. This is also part of our pre-planned annexation document back from 2009 with the interlocal agreement with Snohomish County. And this evening, you are being asked to consider the application, reject the application, or modify the geographical areas. Earlier today, there were internal conversations about another option that we would like to bring to your attention, potentially doing a developer's agreement with the property owners for a smoother annexation or development of this annexation area. I did reach out to the applicants. They are agreeable to the conversation. In order for that to happen, we would request that the council consider not taking action this evening to direct staff and postpone that to July 7th. But with that, I'm very happy to answer any questions about the annexation itself if the applicants are not available to answer your questions.
Great. Council members, do you have any questions about the annexation at this time? Okay, and Kate, your request right now is to delay action. I know we had a slide up there before. The request is to not take action this evening. This will return to the council next in a few weeks, a couple weeks.
That is correct.
Okay. Seeing no comments or questions from council, nobody from the audience representing the annexation area, we'll go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. And Kate, I think we'll see you again. Or did you have more to go over this evening on this?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and move on to new business. Item number 9.1. This is confirm appointment for Park Board position number 7. Ms. Wyckoff, Jody. So what we have here is we have 2 positions open on the Parks Advisory Board. We had 1 application so far, Scott Noel, to serve on the board. I interviewed him with Ben, not with Mike, right? With Ben Swanson a couple weeks ago. I felt that he would make a good addition to our board, and so I'm requesting the council's confirmation of my appointment this evening. His information is in the packet there. If you have any questions on that, staff or I may be able to either answer them this evening or follow up at a later date. So I turn to the council. Councilmember Kenny, go ahead.
Scott Noel to the Park Board position 7, a vacant seat with a term ending December 31st, 2025.
I have a motion from Councilmember Kenny, a second from Councilmember Gamble for the requested action that is shown on the screen. That is part of 9.1 new business. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, we'll move to vote. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Gamble, go ahead. I am very sorry. I got used to green means go. It's red
No,
now.
it's totally, yeah, I know, red means go.
Red
No,
means
I
go.
just wanted to, I always like to just take a moment and thank those that come forward to serve on these boards. So really appreciate, read through 24 years, experience. Just there's a lot of experience there. Excited to have Scott on board. So that's it. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mayor, did we have a second?
Yes, we had a second. It
Okay,
was
fine.
Councilmember Gamble with Councilmember Kenny on the first.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? There being none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll move on to the next item on the agenda. That's item 9.2, resolution number 2022-007, amending the master fee schedule for 2022. Ms. Hasser, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So this is a little bit delayed, but finally with you, we semi-annually update the fee schedule for any changes that we either think needs to be done or has occurred through council action. Couple of subtle changes in the resolution compared to before is we do have a clause in there now that if there are fees that are adopted by ordinance, if there's a conflict, the ordinance does supersede the resolution. So things like our impact fees for both parks and for traffic are done on a different schedule. So sometimes we can't get the two correlated, so that will take care of that. Outside of that, the explanations for the suggested fee changes are in the agenda bill. And hopefully the various departments are here and available should there be any questions beyond what was provided. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I will turn it back over to you.
All right, thank you very much, Becky. Are there any questions for Ms. Hassard or for the rest of staff? All right, is there a motion? Could we read through the requested action, please? Okay, it's right above you. Does that work?
I'm going to approve resolution number 2022-007.
Thank you.
Resolution of the city of council, the city of Monroe, Washington, the city of Monroe, fee schedule, fees, fines, penalties, interest, charges for 2022.
I have a motion from Councilmember Scarborough, a second from Councilmember Davis for the requested action on the slide for 9.2 new business. Thank you for the 007 there. I appreciate it, sir. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, we'll move to vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to the next item, new business item number 9.3. This is approved resolution to designate Trumbull Park as the name for a city-owned 5-acre parcel, undeveloped park property, with Mike Farrell giving the presentation. Mike, you've got the ball.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Good evening, council members. Policy question for the city council is what to formally name the city-owned 5-acre undeveloped park property that's located on the southwest corner of 134th Street Southeast and 191st Avenue Southeast. It has been informally known as the North Hill Area Neighborhood Park. A little background. The city purchased the 5 acres of land last year to develop a park to serve the surrounding neighborhoods. The land was formerly owned by the Trombley family. Isidore and Grace Trombley moved to Monroe from Michigan and homesteaded the North Hill area in 1910. Portions of the original homestead were sold off over the years. However, descendants of Isidore and Grace Trombley envisioned this area as a city park, and they approached the city with the idea in 2018. And in 2021, the city purchased the land from Kathy McCain and Randy Kavner. As an agreed upon written term within both the executed letter of intent to purchase the property and the executed purchase and sale agreement, the city of Monroe has agreed to consider the seller's proposed name, Trombley Park, for the park in accordance with any applicable city of Monroe policy or standards for naming park facilities. A written city policy does not exist for naming park and recreational facilities. However, in 2019, the Monroe City Council by resolution named the Foothills Wetland Preserve a recreational open space property after a name was proposed as part of a conservation grant award. The proposed name was considered by the Monroe Park Board, who in turn passed a recommendation to the Monroe City Council. Staff proposed to follow the same process here of presenting the seller's recommended name, Trombley Park, to the Monroe Park Board for their consideration to make a recommendation to City Council to consider by resolution. And so during the May 2022 regular meeting, the Park Board unanimously passed a recommendation to the Monroe City Council of Trombley Park as a name. The requested action is to approve resolution number 2022-008. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, thank you very much. Council members, any questions, comments, or motion? Councilmember Gamble, go ahead.
Move to approve resolution number 2022-008, designating Trombley Park as the name for the city-owned 5-acre undeveloped park property located southwest corner of 134th Street Southeast and 191st Ave Southeast, Snohomish County, parcel 280-636-00105500 within the city of Monroe, Washington.
Thank you. I have a motion from Councilmember Gamble, second from Councilmember Fulcher for the requested action and new business item 9.3 on the slide as shown. Discussion on the motion. Councilmember Kenny, go ahead.
I just wanted to sort of register my pleasure and happiness at it being named Trombley Park as my putting on my historical society hat. I think it's really important to keep these family names in the community. That was homesteader name and settlers names. And I just love that we are keeping that name so we can talk about the people that originally owned that land into the future. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments from council members? Jody, did you have an item too? Or did I hit your microphone by accident?
Oh, yes, you did.
Oh, that's great. Look at that. I'm turning on people's microphones. All right. We're going to go ahead and move to vote then. All in favor? All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next item. This is new business item 9.4, which would be ordinance number 019-2022, amending chapter 14.01 MMC flood hazard area regulations to incorporate the new community rating system, CRS, class 8 prerequisite, first reading with Anita Marrero. Anita, you are in the panel. Please go ahead and turn on your audio and video, and you have the floor. Good evening. You're on mute. There you go.
Good
Thank you.
evening. Good evening. I do have a short presentation. I'm hoping. Thank you. Thank you, Jody. Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm here to present the first reading of the floodplain regulations ordinance, proposed amendments to chapter 14.01 MMC flood hazard area regulations. Floodplain regulations affects properties located in the special flood hazard areas. Floodplains are beneficial to communities because they naturally store and convey floodwaters. The city is currently in good standing with the National Flood Insurance Program, or the NFIP, and this code amendment is needed in order for the city to continue receiving the 25% discount on flood insurance premiums. This needs to be adopted before August 9th, 2022. That is the date of the city's CRS site visit. So it's very important that we get this through. Next slide, please. This is a map of the City of Monroe floodplains. And as you can see, the shaded color areas represent the floodplains in the city. And the colored areas represent the different flood zones. So majority of the properties are either located northwest, so properties adjacent to Lake Ty, or located south of the city along the Skycomish River, Alborland Park, Sky River Park, adjacent properties. Also the Monroe Mobile Home Park, and the properties commonly known as East Monroe. The NFIP is a national program that offers affordable flood insurance and disaster assistance in flood-prone areas. Monroe has been an NFIP community since 1987 and has a Class 5 rating in the community rating system, and has been a participant since 1991. A Class 5 rating allows a 25% discount on every FEMA flood insurance policy sold in the city. Flood insurance rate maps, or FIRMs, are the official maps on which FEMA has delineated special flood hazard areas and risk zones. The current FIRMs and the floodplain ordinance were adopted by the city on June 9th, 2020. The city is responsible for maintaining the paper maps and are available for viewing by the public. Digital maps can also be found on FEMA's website. And on the next slide, I have an example of what those FIRMs look like. So when you go to FEMA's website, you just plug in the property address, and I put in an address adjacent to Lake Ty off of Frylands Boulevard. And so when you do that, you can determine if the property is located in the floodplain and what flood zone you are in. Next slide, please. The city's floodplain ordinance does not meet the new CRS Class 8 prerequisite found in the 2021 addendum to the 2017 CRS Coordinator's Manual. And so what I did is I pulled out that Class 8 prerequisite and I put it up on the slide here. So basically what we need to add to the code is at least a 1-foot freeboard requirement. And so this includes machinery and equipment for all residential buildings, constructed, substantially improved, or substantially damaged. So the important part of this code change is that it only affects new construction, substantially improved, or substantially damaged. So the threshold for that is equal or exceeds 50% of the market value of the structure. So this will not affect existing homes. Existing homes will not have to do anything at this point. This is just for those situations that I just described. Next slide, please. So the code changes proposed are amendments to MMC section 14.01.130 general standards, and it's adding a 1 foot or more above the base flood elevation requirement for mechanical equipment. It's also adding the following requirement for manufactured homes. The lowest floor of the manufactured home and associated mechanical equipment is elevated 1 foot or more above the base flood elevation. So that's the language that is added into the code, which in the ordinance, which is included in the agenda packet. Next slide, please. So during this process, the city did not receive any public comments. A public hearing was held at the Planning Commission meeting on May 23rd, 2022. And the Planning Commission recommended approval and authorized the Planning Commission chair to sign the findings of fact and conclusions of law, which is also included in the agenda packet. And the recommended action is before you on this slide here. And I will be happy to answer any questions that you have tonight.
All right, thank you very much, Anita. Does anybody have any questions for Anita or a motion? All right, thank you. Councilmember Fulcher, go ahead.
I move to accept as first reading ordinance number 019/2022, amending chapter 14.01 MMC flood hazard area regulations, updating the city's floodplain regulations in order to incorporate the new community rating system CRS class 8 prerequisite, providing for severability and establishing an effective date. Any second?
I have a motion from Councilmember Fulcher, a second from Councilmember Kenny for the requested action shown on the screen. That is 9.4 new business in the packet. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, we'll move to vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anita.
Thank you.
So we're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. That's item new business 9.5, purchase of the Ventures property site, Snohomish County Conservation Futures Grant Funding Land Acquisition with Megan Darrow. So we'll go ahead and Megan, you are now in the panel. Please go ahead and turn on your video and audio, and you're up. Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you. In September of 2021, the city was awarded grant funding through the Snohomish County Conservation Futures Program. The funding was awarded for the purpose of acquiring the Ventures Pacific property site located immediately north of the first airfield runway for the purpose of conservation and passive recreation. An interlocal agreement authorizing the city to pursue purchasing the land with the awarded grant funding was approved by council in May of this year. Next slide, please. Oops. The parcel is 6.7 acres of undeveloped land that includes an access easement to 179th Avenue Southeast. The property will provide linkage of 3 adjacent city-owned conservation parcels, totaling over 50 acres of conservation, restoration, and passive recreational opportunities. The city has been working with Thompson, Gildner and Associates and our city attorney to prepare and review necessary documents and facilitate the purchase. Next slide, please. Tonight, we are requesting that City Council move to adopt resolution number 2022-11, approving the real estate purchase and sale contract to purchase the Venture Pacific property site, to authorize the mayor pro tem to execute the real estate purchase and sale contract with further minor addendums deemed necessary or appropriate to effectuate closing of the sale, and to authorize delivery of the necessary funds to closing and the execution of all documents necessary for the city to complete the transaction. Next slide, please. Any questions?
All right, thank you very much. Council members, do you have any questions or a motion? Councilmember Scarborough, go ahead.
Probably for Ms. Hassert, do I understand that the grant money was sufficient to buy the property?
Go ahead.
Yes, it is. And in fact, it was included in the budget amendment that was adopted this evening.
Okay, thank you. All right, Councilmember Scarborough, do you have a motion? Okay, Councilmember Kenny, you were next.
To approve resolution 2022 -011, approving the real estate purchase and sale contract to purchase Snohomish County Assessor's parcel number 280-63500-104400, Venture Pacific Property. Authorize Mayor Pro Tem to execute real estate purchase and sale contract with further minor addendums deemed necessary or appropriate to effectuate closing of the sale, and authorize delivery of the necessary funds to closing and the execution of all documents necessary for the city to complete the transaction.
I have a motion from Councilmember Kenny, a second from Councilmember Scarborough for the requested action shown on the screen, 9.5 new business. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, we'll move to vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is new business item number 9.6. This is adoption of the 2019 Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington with Jordan Otto. So we'll go ahead and move Jordan into the panelist list. Good evening, Jordan. You've got the ball. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor, Council, for having me back. I'm here this evening to seek the council's approval to move to adopt ordinance 020-2022, adopting the 2019 Washington State Department of Ecology Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington. And this would be amending chapters 2258 and 2340 of the Monroe Municipal Code, which would be replacing the 2014 Stormwater Management Manual. I'm excuse me. I'm also asking that council move to waive council rules and procedures requiring 2 readings of ordinances. Under the city's current NPDS permit, the 2019 manual must be adopted no later than June 30th. And just as a reminder, the Planning Commission has recommended approval for adopting the manual. Again, by not adopting the manual, the city could be open to potential lawsuits for operating city stormwater systems while out of compliance with the Department of Ecology. So that's short and sweet, but that ends my presentation. If you guys have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much. Council members, do you have any questions or motions? Councilmember Gamble, go ahead.
Move to waive council rules procedure requiring 2 readings of ordinances.
I have a motion from Councilmember Gamble, second from Councilmember Davis for motion 1 under requested action 9.6 new business. Any discussion on that motion? There being none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Councilmember Gamble.
Move to adopt ordinance 020-2022, adopting the 2019 Washington Department of Ecology Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington and amending chapter 22.58 MMC Site Plan Review and 2.40 MMC Storm, updating the city's references to the current Stormwater Management Manual for compliance with state law and the city's MPDES Municipal Phase 2 Stormwater System Permit, providing for severability and establishing an effective date.
I have a motion from Councilmember Gamble, a second from Councilmember Fulcher for motion 2 under requested action on 9.6 new business on the screen. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, we'll move to vote. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 9.7 under new business, America Rescue Plan Act, ARP second round award recommendations with Mr. Hebner. Mr. Hebner, who is Jacob Roberts on my list. Go
Yes,
ahead.
indeed. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening to you, sir. Good evening, council members. As the mayor just introduced, the item in front of you at the moment is the second round award recommendations for the American Rescue Plan Act. We have a couple new council members since the city staff presented the criteria and process that was approved by council. So I'm going to give a brief overview of that history. You're welcome, Councilmember Kinney. And then we'll go into the award recommendations. So the American Rescue Plan Act is a federal law passed in March of 2021 that provides federal funding to direct relief to states, counties, cities, and towns, as well as other junior taxing districts. The funds are, the ARP includes direct funding for programs such as rental assistance, housing, food security, and unemployment benefits. So in addition to those, the city has the opportunity to either utilize the funds themselves and or to distribute those funds into the community for programs that are aligned with the goals and allowed uses of the funds. So between March and June of 2021, the mayor and city staff met with our city boards and commissions members, as well as nonprofit organizations and other stakeholders to get input on community needs. And in June of 2021, the city council adopted the plan to distribute ARP funding based on that community input. Under the approved plan for each of the 4 planned funding rounds, the city will form 3 review committees consisting of members of the boards and commissions to review the applications and make recommendations to you all for awarding of the funds. Those members have come from the Planning Commission, the Park Board, the Community Human Services Advisory Board, and the Economic Development Advisory Board. Members of those boards also met with city staff last summer to review the draft application packet and evaluation criteria that were prepared by city staff after reviewing other similar funding programs available through similar municipalities. The adopted criteria included both qualitative and quantitative measures for a total of 100 points. The incorporating both types of measures was an opportunity to allow the broadest range of applications for funding. So the application is, when opened, there are six areas in which the applicant needs to provide information. That is to select both a local project category and a federal funding category that their program matches with, to certify that their program meets the city's priorities and federal requirements, a checklist that will assist the applicant in ensuring that their application is complete, background information, including contact information for the applicant, either a business and nonprofit or an individual and household, questions then related to the scoring evaluation criteria, and a project budget. Once the application round closes, then the city distributes the applications to our volunteer review committees that are randomly, we seek the volunteers from our boards and commissions, and then those volunteers are randomly assigned together. With the second round, we split the membership so that there was on each committee 1 member from EDAB, 1 member from CHSAB, and 1 from either Parks and Planning, to really ensure a wide range of viewpoint and discussion amongst the reviewers. So there's additional information in the agenda packet on exactly how the funds can be used, but they're very similar to the CARES Act in terms of providing relief to businesses, to nonprofits, and to individual residents. So I mentioned a moment ago city priorities. The mayor, in gathering that feedback over that 3-month period last year, Mayor Thomas proposed 3 categories, which were approved by the council for investing ARP funds. Those, of course, you're probably familiar, are supporting recovery, building resiliency, and reconnecting community. So getting to the second round of applications, I described how we went about distributing those funds and gathering the feedback. The city received 53 applications requesting approximately $3.32 million by the April 15th application deadline. The city will, over last year and this year, will receive approximately $5.5 million. And so the plan that was approved last year calls for 4 funding rounds that makes available $1.3 million in each round. So quick napkin math, the requested awards exceeded the amount available by approximately $2 million. So our review committees had some very difficult decisions to make, as you all have heard this evening. So attachment 1 in your agenda packet is the list of recommended awards. There is 1 project missing from the list this evening. City staff is reviewing that 1 project to ensure that it does indeed meet the federal eligibility criteria. We are under the expectation that it will, but we're just working to verify that. So that 1 project will be brought back at a future meeting for your review and consideration. So the list in front of you this evening is I'm scrolling really fast. So there were 27 applications recommended for awards. So the list before you this evening in attachment 1 is 26 of the 27 recommended awards for approximately $1.13 million. The remaining project, if able to be brought forward for your review, would make up the remaining balance, bringing the total outlay for round two to the approximately $1.3 million threshold. Mr. Mayor, that concludes, not almost. I wanted to take a moment and just on the record, on behalf of the city, thank the volunteers that volunteered their time for this process. They put a lot of time into reviewing the applications and providing their scoring and their feedback. And then each review committee had a meeting to review the scores and finalize their recommendations that are presented to you this evening. And these volunteers already, as Councilmember Gamble mentioned, they give a lot of their time already to the city to serve on our boards and commissions. And they did this as an additional volunteer opportunity. And we really appreciate that and just wanted to put that on the record. So now, Mr. Mayor, that concludes my report and happy to answer any questions from council.
Thank you, Rich. Any questions for Rich or a motion? Councilmember Gamble, go ahead. I've got Councilmember Gamble first. Councilmember Gamble, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to thank the committee, just that, as you said there, just appreciate all the representation across the board. I've been here since 2003. And it's hard to not have some sort of affiliation with all of the different groups that are in there, whether you're your customer, or past board member, current board member, and a lot of the different volunteering, capacities. But it was just a lot of great. I mean, what a tough decision for the committee. We do have 2 more rounds, which is great. But because of that, I am a sitting board member on one of them, and so I will be recusing myself from the voting process.
All right. Thank you very much, Councilmember Gamble. Councilmember Scarborough, go ahead.
With the tonight's presentation from the Beck Place and Miracles and Memories, will those people have an opportunity to request funds in the next round, or is there money in another round?
There absolutely, Councilmember Scarborough. There, each of the additional next 2 rounds have 1.3 million available in each of those rounds for a total of 2.6 million remaining in funding. We plan to open round 3 in September, and all organizations that have applied in the past, both previous recipients and non-previous recipients, are absolutely welcome to apply. I would add to that myself, Mr. Pylan from Finance, and our wonderful city administrator are all available to provide technical advice to applicants on the application. We do not tell applicants what to write, but we're happy to answer any questions they have on what the questions are trying to get at and how best to fill out the application. So we are happy to assist the organizations that spoke this evening and any others that would like that.
Okay, did either of these organizations have a request this time and didn't make the cut?
Beck's Place had both of them did. Miracles and Memories received an award in the first round. Beck's Place had 2 applications in this round that did not receive recommendations. Based on the categories that the applicant selected, they went to 2 different review committees. So it was not one committee that chose not to recommend either of them. They were spread out.
Okay. So you're going to help them figure out what they need to do? Without telling them what to do?
Yes, we can't, like I said, we can't tell them what to write, but we're more than happy to help them if there's any uncertainty on what the question is looking for, or any of the questions on the evaluation criteria.
That's good, as long as they're covered for next round. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, one quick thing I would add, and Councilmember Gamble's recusal reminded me of it. Just for the record, none of the reviewers were applicants. So we definitely worked to make sure that there was no conflict of interest in the review process.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Councilmember Fulcher, go ahead.
There we go. Like Councilmember Gamble, I am also a board member on one of the applicants that was approved, so I will also be recusing myself from the vote tonight.
All right, thank you. All right, any other questions for staff? Is there a motion? Councilmember Davis, go ahead.
I'll move to
round award recommendations as provided by the city's review committees.
I have a motion from Councilmember Davis for the requested action in 9.7 new business as shown on the screen. I have a second from Councilmember Scarborough. Any discussion on the motion? Please let the record show that Councilmember Fulcher and Councilmember Gamble have recused themselves from the conversation and also recused themselves from a vote. So we still have a quorum. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes, good. All right. We have a motion on the floor. Seeing no discussion on the motion, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
We're going to go ahead and move on to the next item on the agenda. That next item would be on my printed paper, sorry. Oh, it's right on the screen. This is item 9.8 and new business ordinance number 021-2022, downtown fee waiver program extension for first reading with Lance Bailey from our Community Development Department, our director. Mr. Bailey or Lance? Lance or Mike Farrell this evening? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. For your consideration this evening is ordinance 021-2022. The ordinance would renew for one additional year the city's waiver program for certain building and land use permits that are submitted within the downtown area. And if we could put up the exhibit that shows the map, the description in the ordinance is just a narrative, but I think looking at the map is helpful. This program was originally approved back in 2015 with the idea to incentivize development within the downtown. And it was set up to be renewed each year for council's consideration. And that has occurred every year since 2015. As a part of the ordinance, it also requires that staff bring back to council an accounting of all of the permits that have been waived, and that's included in the packet. It goes all the way back to the initiation of the program, and just for this past year, the 2021-22 cycle. Currently, it stands about $11,500 that have been waived, and for the entire program, it's approaching about $300,000. So I think it has been a successful program, and certainly one of the more notable projects that have taken advantage of this is the River's Edge low-income residential project. And we're seeing a couple of other residential projects that may be coming up that would be able to take advantage of this program as well. So the requested action for this evening is to do first reading of the ordinance to the renewed program for one additional year.
All right, thank you very much, Lance. Councilmember Gamble, go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate this coming back. I remember when we passed this, the first time in 2015, and yeah, I could not agree more. It's been extremely, successful, and it's done exactly what we thought it would do. And there's been a lot of, development down there. So I'm excited to see it back, and especially the way that the economy and inflation is right now. I think it's a great thing. We want to keep that momentum going. So I'm going to move to accept as first reading ordinance number 021-2022, renewing for an additional one-year period the temporary elimination of fees for certain permits associated with development in the downtown area and fixing a time when the same shall become effective.
I have a motion from Councilmember Gamble, a second from Councilmember Fulcher for the requested action under 9.8 new business as shown on the screen. Any discussion on the motion? There being none, we'll move to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda then is councilmember reports. We'll go ahead and start off on the end. Councilmember Scarborough.
Nothing to report tonight.
Thank you. Councilmember Fisher.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Councilmember Kenny.
I attended the Monroe Historical Society program called What's in a Name, and it was very interesting. It was at the Monroe Library Sunday afternoon, and local historian Dexter Taylor entertained a crowd of about maybe 20 people about how old Owen Road got its name, and Lake Ty and Frylands and all of that. It was really well attended and really interesting. So it was great. And it was a collaboration with the public library here in town, which is always wonderful. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fulcher.
Enjoyed another great day down at the market last Wednesday. Encourage you all to get out there. It's from 3 to 7 at the Galaxy Theater parking lot. And other than that, I just tried to stay cool and enjoy our beautiful town.
All right. Thank you very much, Councilmember Fulcher. Councilmember Davis.
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Davis. Councilmember Gamble.
Yeah, just a couple things. The earlier topic today on the SWAC, I would like to see maybe if I've got somebody else, if that would come back, we could take a bigger look on maybe representation. If we don't have anybody from the Sky Valley,
Okay.
I'd like to know like what is the participation, a little more about that. So that can be for something future, but it sounds like I got a support on
Yeah.
a second on that.
We'll bring it back to an upcoming meeting.
Great. It's also apparent that the mayor has seen Top Gun. I've heard you have the ball several times tonight.
I haven't seen the new one.
You haven't seen the new one?
No.
I thought for sure that you had seen the.
I've been doing that for a while.
But you'd seen the new one, yeah. All the one you have the ball. It's great. I did see it and it's fantastic.
good.
So I saw it here, right here at Galaxy Theaters. Yeah, I got to see it in I've seen it twice already. It's great. So I had to see it in D-Box at the Galaxy Theater. So it was great. I'm really, the music in the park, excited for that. I'm bummed I can't make them. My daughter's in a band right now, so I am an official groupie for the summer, living a lot of my time in Spokane and Northern Idaho. So I'm bummed I'm missing it, but there's some I've seen some of the bands we have on the lineup. It should be really, 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 really fun. So get out there. That's it.
All right. Thank you very much, Councilmember Gamble. We'll now move to staff with the Finance Department report with Becky Hassert. Becky, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The finance report is in your packet. It does not yet reflect the budget amendment because this is the May report and the budget amendment was just adopted tonight. So we'll have much more analysis beginning with the next report coming here shortly. But with that, Mr. Mayor, I am available if there are any questions for anything that's in the report.
Thank you. Any questions for Becky? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the police report with Chief Jolly. Chief, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Council. The report for the Monroe Police Department is in your packet. I would like to point out and highlight a couple of items that are on the first page. In May, we had an inordinate amount of calls involving weapons in and around Monroe. Our officers responded to a call outside of the city in which an individual was shot during a road rage incident, and they intervened and were able to control a chaotic situation and provide advanced life-saving trauma care and no doubt saving a man's life while calming the situation, taking a suspect into custody. Also, as a note, the last item there regarding the Duval incident, just know that we were able to deploy our MAT-V armored rescue vehicle that the council and the mayor supported about 3 years back. It was instrumental. If you saw the news, you could see the aerial photos of our rescue unit. It successfully intervened and was able to distance the suspect who was firing into the home and eventually assisted in the evacuation of those people in the home. And the suspect was later arrested. 3 Monroe officers were manning that vehicle, and I commend them for their quick response and intervening in that situation. Also not listed on there, an individual was in the parking lot of a local shopping area and accidentally, while positioning his weapon in his waistband without a holster, shot himself, partially hitting his femur. Our officers also responded to that and implemented advanced life-saving techniques, applying a tourniquet, and undoubtedly saved his life. So it was a good month for those people. And then on the back, you see we have a couple of our employees, Elisa Rodriguez and Renee Acri, who attended a Women in Business conference, continuing our tradition of interacting and partnering with the community. We're very proud of them for participating in that. And piggybacking on Councilmember Fulcher's farmers market ping, if you want to see the new motor that our officers are riding, it will be highlighted at our city booth. And there for a demonstration, Officer Patton will be there. And that's about it, if you have any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Chief. Any questions for Chief Jolly? All right, thank you very much, Chief. Next person to present this evening will be Tyler Christian on the Human Resources and IT Department report. So Tyler, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mayor and Council. Just a few things I want to highlight for our human resources for this month. So far this year, we've onboarded 17 people, which is a lot, and very proud of the staff that's worked on that throughout all the departments. We've been able to fill all of our seasonal positions, which was a big thing for us and definitely a difficulty in our industry in general. So that's been a huge thing. So I'm really grateful that that's happened, as well as our internships. I'd like to, we will continue to hire positions, and we have more jobs in the hopper. So it's kind of a never ending process. For anniversaries, there's a big list of my colleagues that are listed in the packet, but I'd like to point out Jacob Roberts, who was with us earlier this evening, but for 23 years of service this month. So that's a lot of service to the city of Monroe. So we're very grateful to have him. And there's several others that have been with us for quite some time. Moving on to IT, I could probably hand the microphone to Jason, but since I'm going, I'll just keep going because he's here tonight. But we have moved on to phase 2 of our Springbrook update, which we're really excited about, working with the finance department and other departments throughout the city. This will include some employee self-service, some easier access to pay stubs, as well as W-2s, things along those lines. Hopefully, we're going to move forward into some electronic timekeeping, as well as extended budget modules going forward to bring forward to council. So we will continue to work on that project. And then included is also a list of the Comcates, which IT does monthly to kind of track where we are for progress and the tickets that we're having throughout staff. So if there's any questions, Mr. Mayor, I would be happy to take them.
Thank you, Tyler. Any questions for Tyler? All right, seeing none, move on to the next item. Thank you, Tyler. Next one is Mayor and Administrative Reports under item 12, 12.1, City Administrator Report with extended agenda. And so Deborah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It will come as no surprise to anybody that we are canceling our July 5th meeting in celebration of our Independence Day. So both the Public Safety Committee and the regular study session will be canceled that night. Looking forward then to July 12th. We do have a Legislative Affairs Committee meeting scheduled, and we will continue the updates that our clerk, Jody Wyckoff, has been taking that committee through for the council rules of procedure. Looking forward then to the regular business meeting, we do have announcements and presentations. The State of Evergreen Health Monroe. So Lisa LaPlante, our local director, and Megan Wershing will be presenting to the council and providing an update on what's happening at our local hospital. On the consent agenda, we have some of the regular items, our payroll, our minutes, and then a resolution of adoption of the Snohomish County Comprehensive Solid Waste Hazardous Waste Management Plan. That was a mouthful by Mr. Roberts. And then construction management services contract for the Madison Street project. We do have final action, a resolution on the Connor annexation, new business, a resolution, and an update on the cost allocation plan. And then under unfinished business, we have an ordinance amending Chapter 1401 of the Monroe Municipal Code for flood hazard area regulations that Anita Marrero presented this evening. And I believe that's it, except for staff reports.
All right, thank you. The question was, do we need a motion to cancel the July 5th meeting?
I don't know, do we?
All right. Go ahead.
Were canceled when the meeting agenda was presented at the beginning of the year, and this was one of them. So
July 5th.
Yep.
All right. All right, that answers that question. All right, thank you. Councilmember Gamble, go ahead.
I will be absent on the 12th. I'm out of town on vacation.
Okay.
Woohoo.
All right, any other comments on the extended agenda or any other absences that folks are aware of? All right. We're going to go ahead and continue then with the city administrator report. Deborah?
Excellent. City offices will be closed on July 4th, which is a Monday, in observance of Independence Day. And we already talked about the July 5th meeting will be canceled. We are distributing a flyer with fireworks regulations at the farmers market and at fireworks stands this year in order to provide people with additional information about the rules and regulations about fireworks discharge in the city. And that's all I have.
All right. Thank you. Any questions for Deborah for those items? All right. Thank you, everybody. Mayor's report. I don't know that I have anything really to report this evening. I've just been doing a number of items with staff, and I'm going to defer to Deborah. Deborah, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was trying to turn off the microphone and realized I pressed the button again. It was user error.
That's all good. All right. Lance, AKA Mike, sorry, your names are reversed this evening. So Mike, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Thomas and council members. Just a little informal update. Want to let you know that with the 4th of July coming, that as you know, park code, it prohibits shooting and fireworks. So we'll be posting notices in the parks, but we'll be taking an additional step to protect our new asset at Lake Tye Park. So we will lock the synthetic turf fields for the 4th of July only. So we'll reopen them on the 5th of July. That's all.
All right, thank you. I think the only, go ahead, Mike. You can shut on. So the only thing I do want to add for folks, you've seen there's construction going on out here out front. So we're going to be having 3 flagpoles set up out here in the front. We anticipate having that finished probably in early August at this point. I'm sorry, that was Jacob.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We put a plaque in at Lake Tye when we did the work at Lake Tye. We have a draft of a plaque right now. If council members are interested in doing that, the thought is to just call it Unity Plaza because it's a place right out there in front where we can have the flags fly and things like that. I'd be happy to share a proof of that with you. I think the quote is something, this is a place to celebrate, commemorate, and remember, something along those lines. So Mike's like, yeah, I think that's what it was. So if anybody's got any concerns about that, let me know. Otherwise, I'll have staff go ahead and prepare that, and we'll just have that inset on the concrete out there, not so that it's front and center and takes away from things, but just something off to the side with each of the current council members' names on there in mind. So I don't see any concern about that. Okay, so we'll proceed with that. Councilmember Gamble, go ahead.
Just a quick question on that, Mike. Are you just saying for night, at night, or are you talking whole day?
It'll be closed on the 4th of July. Lock it down.
So people don't shoot fireworks
We
off.
don't have any Yeah, the only reason I'm saying is there's a lot of people that haven't, I mean, we're kind of penalizing the rest of the public because we feel like that potentially people are going to light fireworks off. Is that our issue?
There's been a history there. It was fireworks last year and the construction zone and this kind of stuff.
What are your thoughts on,
We could just do it in the evening.
you mean keep it open in the afternoon and lock it in the evening?
You've got it. That's our number one asset and then there's a day off. It's the 4th of July. People are going to want to enjoy the river in the park. You're going to have people climbing the fences. I'm almost like, could we put a plan together to maybe police it a little bit? I don't know. I'm just.
So people can use it for
For
recreation,
the-
but
I
not for
totally get
fireworks.
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm not, we'll hear about that.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
would understand why we would hear about that.
Thoughts from other council members? I see Tammy leaning forward, which is why I'm asking. Go ahead, Tammy.
I have to say that I support Mike's decision. Just living in the Frylands for a while, I have seen a lot of just sort of chaotic mayhem going on at Lake Tye, and it's certainly something that I think we need to be aware of and prepare for. And at least this first year, maybe just protect that asset. I agree with Mike.
Other thoughts from other council members? Okay. I'm letting a pregnant pause be out there, as they say, because I see people thinking about it.
I see both sides.
Yeah.
Let's go either way with it.
Yeah, totally get that.
Mike, you willing to, so I don't need a decision now because I'd like you to talk to the chief and Deborah and others about it, but if you feel that there's a way to set up a plan where it can remain open for recreation that won't literally burn or melt the field. So soccer, lacrosse, sorry, just give everybody a hard time. But people to use the field, if you think that that's something that we can do after talking to other staff, then maybe we shut it down at 4 or 5-ish. Okay.
I
All right.
appreciate it, at least looking
Okay.
at it. And then, no, totally. I get it for the nighttime especially. And then I would love, I mean, I'm anticipating that we're gonna have some sort of increased patrol around there, whether it's
Yeah.
Parks Department or police.
Yeah,
Or
we've-
council members, that are around. Yeah.
Yeah, so-
Because I mean, people jump the fence. They do. It happens. So.
Yeah, at our SLT last week, it was one of the things that we talked about was just making certain that whether we're open or closed, that we at least make certain that we've got some added protection out there. So that is something that is on the list. So with that said, again, I don't want staff to commit to it without talking about a plan. We want to be protective of the asset. And if Mike and the other staff members can find a place where they feel that the asset can be protected, and if something happens, we can address it right away, then they'll have it open until sometime in the late afternoon, like 4 or 5, something like that. So Mike, would you be able to have, or Deborah, send an email to the council once we have a determination on what the plan is, just to close the loop with Jason and other folks? Okay. All right. Thank you for bringing that up. Other questions or concerns at this time? All right. We're going to go ahead. We do, even though I joke about executive sessions, we do have what we think is a short executive session this evening. Staff usually says 7 minutes. They say 5, which means it should be short. We are now going to move into executive session for an initial 5 minutes. This is under pending litigation pursuant to RCW 42.30.110, subsection 1, subsection little I. We will be reconvening when the executive session is over. We will announce extensions if necessary in this current Zoom meeting. And there will be action to be taken afterwards, if nothing else, to end the meeting. So we are now in executive session at 8:51 p.m. Thank you. Okay, we are back in executive session. There is no further business this evening. Unless there's objection, we are adjourned. There's no objection. We are adjourned. Have a great week. Happy 4th of July.